Tonight on the Worldview Report, the CDC stops recommending the COVID shots for pregnant women and healthy children. We all know children are bombarded with vaccines in their first 6 months of life. What can parents do to prevent some of the most unnecessary shots? We'll evaluate also the long-term buildup of microplastics on the human brain. And a new book alleges that the Joe Biden presidency was really run by a secret cabal. And President Trump puts his stamp of approval on a merger deal with big implications for the U.S. steel industry. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. Leading off tonight, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has stopped recommending routine COVID-19 vaccinations for pregnant women and healthy children. That's what U.S. health regulators said on Tuesday. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said in a video posted on social media, the platform X, that the vaccines have been removed from the CDC's recommended immunization schedule for those groups. Kennedy, of course, is a longtime vaccine skeptic whose department oversees the CDC and has been, Robert Kennedy Jr. remaking the U.S. health system to align with President Donald Trump's goal of dramatically shrinking the federal government. The CDC had previously recommended updated COVID vaccines for everyone aged 6 months and older, despite reams and reams of evidence that children do not die from COVID, and the shots were not effective in preventing it. Not to mention the studies that clearly tied COVID shots to myocarditis and other potentially deadly side effects, well, those need to be considered and have been. President Trump's FDA commissioner, Marty Makary, he said in the video that there's no evidence that healthy kids need routine COVID shots. Most countries have stopped recommending the shots for children. That's what he said. Quote, with the COVID-19 pandemic behind us, it is time to move forward, end quote. That's what the Department of Health and Human Services said in that statement. COVID vaccine makers Moderna and Pfizer did not immediately respond to requests for comment. They have each made billions of dollars, according to reports, off of a pharmaceutical product that was neither safe nor effective, according to experts. But they are protected from legal accountability for the product's safety. And that's thanks to legislation passed by Congress in 1986 and signed by President Ronald Reagan. Children's Health Defense recently posted the question, how do you stop medical professionals from giving your newborn baby the hepatitis B vaccine? Answer, never let the baby out of your sight. That's according to a senior research scientist interviewed by the news outlet. We've heard, of course, horrific stories of parents who refused the hepatitis B vaccine for their babies, only later to discover that it was secretly administered behind their backs. Hepatitis B, well, it's transmitted through blood and bodily fluids, which means sexual contact. So why do they need to vaccinate a baby against this? Why? Well, according to this medical researcher, simply telling the hospital staff that you do not want your baby to get this hepatitis B shot, that's not sufficient. Watch this.
What would you do if you were going into hospital with your wife and you didn't want Hep B? Would you give them information? I mean, what's your suggestion as a senior research scientist?
Never let the baby out of your sight is for sure. You can put no Hep B vaccine on your birth plan. You could tell that to absolutely every person who comes in to see you at that birth clinic. Giving a hepatitis B vaccine is reactionary for many healthcare workers. they will give it no matter how many times you tell them not to, unless you are unless you are over your baby and saying, what is that? We don't want that.
Let's put it this way. Would you give your newborn baby the hepatitis B?
Absolutely not.
I think that's
I mean,
so
right, absolutely not. The aluminum content alone, just no. Risk factors, no. Like, there's no reason to give a hepatitis B vaccine.
Fortune magazine reports that earlier this year, scientists discovered there are about as many microplastics in the average human brain as a whole plastic spoon. The paper was published in Nature Medicine in February, and it revealed that the amount of microplastics, teeny plastic particles smaller than 5 millimeters in the human brain, appears to be increasing. Concentrations rose by about 50% between 2016 and 2024. Not only were there more microplastics in the brain than in liver or kidney tissues, but microplastics, their concentrations were higher in the brains of dementia patients than in those without dementia. So now scientists, they're examining the effect on the brain health of microplastics and one of the largest sources of microplastics. Ready? Ultra-processed foods. In a series of 4 papers published in the journal Brain Medicine, researchers, they synthesized mounting evidence that microplastics accumulating in the brain, especially those from ultra-processed foods, could be contributing to rising global rates of dementia, depression, and other mental health disorders. Co-author, one of them who wrote the paper, is Dr. Nicholas Fabino from the University of Ottawa. And he said in the press release, quote, "We're seeing converging evidence that should concern us all. Ultra-processed foods now comprise more than 50% of energy intake in countries like the United States. And these foods contain significantly higher concentrations of microplastics than whole foods. Recent findings show these particles can cross the blood-brain barrier and accumulate in alarming quantities," end quote. Zero Hedge reports that Alex Thompson, co-author of the proactive new book, Original Sin, subtitled President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and Its Disastrous Choice to Run Again, that's the book and the title, well, it has ignited a firestorm across Democrat Party circles, asserting that a secretive cabal of aides ran the White House like a shadowy Politburo in order to conceal Joe Biden's failing mental health. Thompson told The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg that he began questioning the White House's narrative about Biden's mental fitness back in April of 2023. That was after hearing concerns from administration insiders about Biden's capacity to endure re-election, to go through the campaign, or to even endure another term in office. Despite repeated denials from the White House, which labeled such claims as false, Thompson's reporting uncovered a different reality, eroding his trust in their statements. He described a tight-knit group of aides referred to by some within the administration as the Politburo. Effectively, they were steering the White House. This inner circle, Thompson noted, included longtime Biden aides like Mike Donilon, Steve Ricchetti, Bruce Reed, and Ron Klain, alongside key figures close to the Biden family, such as First Lady Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and Jill's chief of staff, Anthony Bernal, and, of course, Deputy Annie Tomasini, who often serves as Biden's traveling chief of staff. Zero Hedge noted that former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and DHS Secretary Mayorkas are, well, conspicuously absent from this list. Watch this.
We need to listen to what Axios reporter Alex Thompson had to say about the inner circle controlling Biden at the end of his term. Watch this.
The people that were in charge were Mike Donilon, Steve Ricchetti, Bruce Reed, Anthony Bernal, the First Lady's chief of staff, the First Lady, and Annie Tomasini. Those were the people that saw him the most and that had the most control over what he was doing and his day-to-day.
Well, clearly, Congressman, he is naming names. And we have the Washington Post columnist, Sally Quinn, accusing former First Lady of elder abuse. What do you say to that, Congressman? Elder abuse.
It is elder abuse. It is. There's no doubt about that. And all of these officials that were in the Biden White House, as far as I'm concerned, they need to come in front of the Oversight Committee because questions need to be answered. Last thing I will say on this is, depending on when the president truly was not in control of his mental faculties, a lot of the stuff that he did as president, in my view, should be invalidated. And the reason why is because you can't use an auto pen to run the country. It has to be from the mental capabilities and the physical capabilities of the person elected to be commander-in-chief. And so if Joe Biden could not execute the duties of his office, then why are we living under a lot of the decisions that was made by the Biden White House? So there's a lot of investigations that need to occur on this matter. This is a major scandal, in my view, the biggest one in presidential history. We can now put Watergate to bed because the auto pen is now in front of us.
A Biden staffer also reportedly told Thompson that the then president, quote, just had to win, and then he could disappear for 4 years, end quote. Quote, he'd only have to show proof of life every once in a while, end quote. That's what the author said. But the aide relayed to him, quote, his aides could pick up the slack, end quote. Quote, when you're voting for president, you're voting for the aides around him, end quote. That's what the aide reportedly said. The Palestinian delegation scored a symbolic victory on Monday, allowing them the right to fly their flag at the World Health Organization. The move came as a result of a vote by the WHO member states on Monday that the Palestinian envoy hopes, will lead to a greater recognition within the United Nations and beyond. A proposal brought by China, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and others at the WHO's annual assembly in Geneva. Well, it passed 95 in favor and 4 against. Those voting no included Israel, Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Germany, with 27 abstentions. It follows a successful Palestinian bid for membership of the UN General Assembly last year and comes amid signs that France could recognize a Palestinian state. Lebanon's, their delegate said that the vote's outcome provided, quote, a small ray of hope for the brave Palestinian people whose suffering has reached unbearable levels, end quote. Israel, they argued against the WHO resolution and they called for a vote. Its main ally, the United States, exited the WHO and did not participate. Even though almost 150 countries have recognized the Palestinian state, most major Western powers have not, including the United States, Britain, France, Germany, and Japan. France and Germany voted in favor of the flag proposal, while Britain abstained. President Donald Trump on Friday said he had approved a deal for Nippon Steel to buy U.S. steel, reversing a position he took during the presidential campaign after the Japanese manufacturer agreed to pour more investment into the United States. President Trump now refers to the deal as a partnership instead of an acquisition. He wrote in a post on Truth Social, quote, this will be a planned partnership between United States Steel and Nippon Steel, which will create at least 70,000 jobs and add $14 billion to the U.S. economy. The bulk of the investment will occur in the next 14 months, end quote. The action also reverses former President Joe Biden's decision to block the transaction just weeks before leaving office in January. Both Biden and President Trump had taken the position that they wanted the iconic American company to remain U.S. owned. U.S. Steel said in a statement, quote, U.S. Steel will remain American and we will grow bigger, stronger partnership with Nippon Steel that brings massive investment, new technologies, and thousands of jobs over the next 4 years, end quote. Nippon played along with the change in terminology, stating, quote, the partnership between Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel is a game changer for U.S. Steel and all of its stakeholders, including the American steel industry and the broader American manufacturing base, end quote. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which is an interagency panel that indeed reveals and reviews foreign investment for potential national security risk, they were due to deliver their recommendations on the deal to President Trump this week. Details of the deal, well, they have yet to be released. David McCall, he's president of the United Steelworkers Union. He said in a statement, quote, "We cannot speculate about the impact of today's announcement without more information. Our concern remains that Nippon, a foreign corporation with a long and proven track record of violating our trade laws, will further erode domestic steelmaking capacity and jeopardize thousands of good union jobs," end quote. Representative Chris DeLuzio, Democrat from Pennsylvania, he has a district that is in Western Pennsylvania. He also still had questions about the transaction. Quote, "The devil will be in the details," end quote. That's what DeLuzio said in a statement. Senator Todd Young, he's a Republican from Indiana and a longtime supporter of the deal. He said that President Trump's decision was a, quote, "huge win," end quote, for workers at U.S. steel facilities in Gary, Indiana. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at WVWFoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at WVWFoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at WVWFoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Welcome back. Hey, don't forget our 22nd annual National Worldview Weekend. It's coming up Friday night, April 3rd, Saturday, April 5th. It's here in the Mid-South, just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, in a very nice and safe middle upper class community known as Germantown, Tennessee, and Collierville, Tennessee. We're right on the border there. And we have all the details at worldviewstore.com, including the hotels we recommend you stay at. It's a beautiful auditorium that we've rented this year, but it only seats 350 people, so seating is limited. It's going to be an exclusive event for those 350 who will have plenty of time to walk up and talk to the presenters like we do each and every year, but a smaller crowd this year means more access. You can go up and visit with Gordon Chang, with Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, all the speakers. Alex Newman will be there, along with Sidney Powell, Dr. Andy Woods. We're also going to have Hadia with us. Let's see, I don't know who else. We got a whole list of them. They're all there at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Don't forget, we also have a Thursday night concert, banquet, and keynote speaker. Hadia, former Muslim, worked in the government on the issues of terrorism, former Muslim turned Christian. She has a powerful testimony and a lot of information to share about the Middle East, Abraham Accords, and so much. She'll be speaking. And then as I have the last several years, I'll be bringing my grand piano with my piano player. But this year, we're bringing in some strings, violins, cellos. It's going to be quite the evening of music and testimony. So again, seating is limited for that Thursday night Worldview Foundation banquet. Full details on both these events are at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Hope you can make it. And if you're a Vault member, you'll be able to live stream it, but only if you're a member of the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. Zero Hedge reports that the Trump administration has paused all new interviews for foreign student visa applicants, and they may start vetting their social media posts before even allowing them to enter on those student visas. That's according to a cable obtained by Politico. In the Tuesday cable signed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the administration has ordered U.S. embassies and consulates to pause scheduling new interviews. It's a move that could drastically slow down the processing of student visas and hurt universities, which rely heavily on foreign students. Foreign students have long served as cash cows for universities because most of them pay full tuition rates and are not awarded grants and scholarships. Cable was signed by Rubio, and it reads as follows, quote, effective immediately in preparation for an expansion of required social media screening and vetting, consular sections should not add any additional student or exchange visitor visa appointment capacity until further guidance is issued, which we anticipate in the coming days, end quote. According to the report, the administration has already imposed some social media screening requirements, largely aimed at returning students who may have participated in protests against Israel's actions in the Gaza. There you go. I agree with that. A Christian rally hosted in Seattle's Cal Anderson Park over Memorial Day weekend by the conservative group Mayday USA, well, it descended into total chaos after Antifa militants showed up to hold a counter rally and apparently started attacking the Christians. The event, branded by organizers as the Don't Mess With Our Kids rally, well, it began on Saturday afternoon, and it drew the attention of leftist radicals for its mission, which included defending, quote, the sanctity of human life, biological gender, and freedom of religion, end quote. Watch this.
Crazy arrest happening. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, backing up, backing up. Backing up. Multiple arrests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people arrested. Multiple Antifa militants, maybe another one here. Get behind the bikes. Hey, how are you? Any comments, sir? What's going on here?
We're enforcing the law. That's all we're doing. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's the latest from SPD right now. The men and women of SPD doing their job. Think about the risks they're taking right now, just trying to keep the peace here at Cal Anderson Park. Again, today started off with a peaceful Christian rally to stand with children against transgender ideology. Dozens of Antifa militants dressed up in black bloc now trying to disrupt, pushing cops, fighting. Absolutely insane melee here right now. There are brawls happening. I can't keep track of what's happening, what's where. This is all being live streamed. Multiple. Guys, we got a huge brawl going on. Antifa and police. I know you're following. We got arrests happening right now. Antifa militants. Multiple people being arrested right now. Get out of here. Release Antifa. Wow, we got some arrests going down here. Antifa militants being arrested now. Wow. We're going to have dozens of arrests today, guaranteed.
So, that's all it takes now for Christians to get attacked by Antifa, to simply hold a rally against transgendering of America's children. Left-wing counter-protesters, they accused Mayday USA of promoting, of course, fascist family values and holding the rally in a predominantly LGBTQ neighborhood. Protesters, including members of the Radical Women Seattle and the Freedom Socialist Party, they chanted and waved signs bearing messages such as, "Keep your Bibles off our bodies." Then they began, apparently, according to reports, throwing objects at the Christians. Seattle's Democrat Mayor, Bruce Harrell, he assigned the blame to, wait a minute, who do you think? Oh, yeah, the Christians, accusing them of inciting the leftist thugs to violence. The left never takes responsibility for anything, do they? It's always somebody else's fault. You caused me to do it. That's really their excuse, right? So there you go. Blaming a rabbit, like blaming a rabbit for getting eaten by a coyote, simply because the rabbit had the audacity to show up in the coyote's territory, right? Well, here's another report on the event from Frontline's TP USA.
What do you want to say to the rest of the country watching this nationally? A lot of people don't believe this type of far-left violence and militant behavior is happening in a place like Seattle.
Well, it is, and I think it's because of the silence of the church. So my message to the rest of the country is we got to stop being silent, stop being inside the four walls of the church, step outside the four walls of the church, and bring the love of Jesus Christ to the most dark places that we see.
Praise and worship happening right now.
I think if the church wakes up and the church starts using its voice, things will change in this country, things will change in Seattle, things will change in Washington.
We're not living here. We're coming. The church has been used to sitting in the building. Now it's time for us to come out and show the love of Jesus, even to the people that are opposing right now.
And look at this. Look at this.
Again, Joe, what's up?
Look at this. They're getting closer and closer to the stage.
We're going to stand our ground. We're going to exercise our First Amendment right and exercise our right to peaceable religious freedom.
Not only do we come here to show the love of God, but we hope that by the time we are done here, that the atmosphere in Seattle will change and people will know that God is truly love.
Well, now it's time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. President Trump warned Tuesday that Russian President Vladimir Putin is, quote, playing with fire, end quote. That was just days after he scolded Putin for bombing Kiev. President Trump wrote on social media, quote, what Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. That's what he said. President Trump, he's been trying to negotiate a peace deal with Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky for months, but has expressed increasing frustration with both sides. President Trump on Sunday told reporters that he thinks Putin has gone absolutely crazy after Putin launched drone and missile attacks on Kiev and other locales. What's not being reported in the U.S. media is that Putin launched his increased drone and missile attacks in response to the Ukrainian government trying to assassinate him last week. And the Europeans, they announced they have removed all restrictions on the use of long-range missiles being sent to the Ukrainian regime there in Kiev. So in short, Ukraine stepped up its attacks and Russia responded in kind. President Trump, when asked by a reporter on Sunday about the reports of a failed assassination attempt on Putin's helicopter, said he was unaware of that. Zero Hedge noted in an article on Tuesday, quote, it seems that the peace process will continue to unravel or at the very least stall. All of this points to further escalation on the horizon, despite President Trump's constant assurances to the American public that he would quickly end this war, end quote. Well, the big question remains, who is President Trump listening to on foreign policy? Some of President Trump's recent comments indicate that the neocons in his inner circle may have won out over those seeking peace. If voices like that of Secretary Marco Rubio win out over those of Tulsi Gabbard, then the president is more likely to say and do things that provoke Putin to ramp things up, which then leads to the U.S. getting further involved with Ukrainians and Europeans, notably Britain, France, and Germany, whose leaders, well, they are all very much itching for war with Russia. If the neocons are left to their devices, they will always gravitate toward war. And that means we should expect continued major escalations on the horizon. So my advice would be to get yourselves and your families prepared for all-out war and the shortages and hard times that often come with world wars. Because I think war's coming. And there's no reason why any of us should be surprised or caught off guard when it arrives. That does it for this edition of the Worldview Report. As always, thank you for tuning in and supporting the broadcast. Please remember, we're brought to you by you. We are a listener-supported program. WorldviewFoundation.com is our major sponsor to help us produce the program and push it out for free for educational purposes and also for ministry, helping people understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview so we might know how to properly respond. We need your support. We need it now. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. The next time I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.